Hey guys, it's Steve for CollectorMania. We're here continuing our 32 series. We have made it to pretty much the finish line. We are on 5 color now. So this is my Child of Alara Chaos deck, essentially. It is all about Cascade. As you can see, Chaos is a ladder. I figured I'd throw that in there from Game of Thrones episode. I think that was last week. Oh, Game of Thrones. But anyway, Child of Alara. Cool creature, crazy type. It's basically a giant baby screaming into the void, or the Maelstrom, I guess you'd call it. So it's a 6/6 with trample. Essentially, the idea here is that when it dies, if you put it into your graveyard instead of the command zone, you basically wipe the board. So it's a board wipe on a stick, essentially. It's really interesting. I love the creature. It's probably my favorite 5 color until Ramos comes out, which will be happening very soon. So anyway, Child of Alara. Breaking into the creatures here, we've got a Deathrite Shaman. The idea here is, once again, we're playing 5 color. We do have a few fetch lands in our deck, so having something like this that can fix our mana for us is really important. Plus Deathrite Shaman is just, of course, extra utility. There's a bunch of ways. I mean, there's a ton of times that I've just finished the game with him just using his abilities. So, Deathrite Shaman. Then we've got a Noble Hierarch, once again going back to the mana fixing. This 5 color, the way I built it, is based on green. So you essentially get green and you can work yourself into pretty much anything else. So Noble Hierarch helps a lot with that, being able to tap for 3 colors. The actual main reason it's in here is for the Exalted. I know that sounds kind of funny, but sometimes swinging with Child of Alara, just giving it Exalted just is that extra little boost to get it through. Because oftentimes you can actually win with commander damage with this deck. So there's that. And then we've got another really good fixture in Bloom Tender. This card is absolutely bonkers in here. You get it down on turn 2, play Child of Alara whenever you can, then all of a sudden this thing taps for 5. And, you know, when you're playing things like Progenitus and stuff like that, it's really helpful to just throw out all your colors on one creature. So there's that. And then there's a little bit of like a blink theme in here as well. So we've got a Mist Meadow Witch, of course. This is kind of the old version of, I'd say, like Eldrazi Displacer or Deadeye Navigator. It's a little bit slower because you can basically only do it 1 time a turn or anything like that, but still a really cool card, super effective, super cheap, works really well. Plus it's a Kithkin. You don't see those very often. And then since we are talking about, you know, Cascade, we do have a Jorian, because a lot of times just casting a spell and then casting another spell will trigger Jorian, so then you get to draw a card, you know, while you're doing all that. And card advantage is key, of course, so Jorian, super cool card. One of our first Cascaders, we've got a Blood Braid Elf, of course. This card is banned in, you know, Modern and a lot of other formats just because it's that good. It's super good, comes out, has haste, cascades into a lot of relevant things. Usually you're wanting to hit either like your Jorian or any of your lower drops like your Deathrite Shaman off this card. And then we've got a really fun card that I don't think a lot of people play just because it's lesser known, and that's Identity Thief. It's just a really interesting way to copy a creature and then bounce another creature back to your hand. With things like Maelstrom Wanderer, once again, you want to be able to recast them for that cascade effect, so this is just an interesting way to get that done. It's almost like ninjutsu in a way, so really cool. Then, of course, going back into, I guess, the blinking side of the deck, we've got a Siege Rhino. This card is super effective in multiplayer Commander. You just nail everybody with that little bit of life loss and then gain some life. It's a really cool card. I think it should be played in anything that can. Like, Abzan decks love this card, and it's not just for Standard. Then, of course, a new addition, we've got Yidris. Really important, of course, for the Cascade effect. I don't know, this card, we already did a feature on it with my Tribal Wizards deck. It's absolutely bonkers. The amount of things that you can cascade with this, yeah, it's just insane. Especially, once again, when you're casting things like Progenitus. I mean, I can see like the whole setup where you cast Progenitus and cascade into like Maelstrom Wanderer and then cascade. It would be absolutely insane. So Yidris, he's a definitely good one. Then we've got Peregrine Drake, just a way to untap your lands. Works really well, of course, with like Deadeye Navigator. You know, just essentially have infinite mana at that point, and then you can just cast the rest of your deck as long as you have a draw engine. So there's that. Then, speaking of the devil, we've got Deadeye Navigator. This card is dirty as heck. There's a lot of reasons why people want this to be banned. I mean, You throw it with a Mystic Snake, and then all of a sudden you can just counter every spell. You throw it with Peregrine Drake, all of a sudden you've got infinite mana. I mean, there's just Siege Rhino, this will just win the game, so yeah. Deadeye Navigator. And then we've got an Ethereum Horn Sorcerer, another one of our Cascaders. This one's really important because you can bounce it back to your hand. And he is honestly part of the reason why I did 5-color Cascade, just because I always felt like I was doing, I don't know, like half the Cascaders. Because Maelstrom Wanderer, obviously this guy can be included, but there are a few other ones that can't be included, like the Nexus or the Angel. So like, just looking at all of them together, it's just like, why don't I just build 5-color? I wish there was a 5-color commander that cascaded, but that's just asking for too much. Closest we'll ever get to that is Yidris. And then, let's see, after that we've got Intet the Dreamer. This is kind of an interesting card. I think it's under the radar once again. I'll read it for you because it's one of my favorite of the dragon cycle. You know, I guess you'd call that the invasion dragons, right? Is that the right set?
I don't remember.
Yeah, anyway, that cycle of dragons.
Yeah,
so,
I think you're right, though.
3 colorless, and then Rug, or Timor as they call it nowadays. Flying 6/6 legendary creature dragon. When Intet the Dreamer deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 3. If you do, remove the top card of your library from the game face down. You may look at that card as long as it remains removed from the game. You may play that card without paying its mana cost as long as Intet remains in play. So it's a really interesting way to get card advantage. I've seen a lot of people brew around this card specifically as a commander, and it works amazingly. Like, the color pair is right, everything's right about it. Plus 6/6 flyer commanders are always good. So anyway, I digress. This card in the deck is amazing. It's great for generating that just little bit of edge that you need. So there we go, Intet the Dreamer. And we've got another Cascader, Enigma Sphinx. This guy's great because, you know, when he dies, or let's see, into the graveyard from the battlefield, put 3rd from the top of your library. Once again, going back to that whole recasting Cascade creatures, this guy does it automatically on his own. So, really cool card. I love Sphinxes too, so just awesome. Plus the fact that he's an artifact can sometimes become relevant. And we've got the Mac Daddy, the Maelstrom Wanderer. This is oftentimes the Maelstrom, or the Cascade commander. And I can definitely see the argument there, but I think he's great in the deck as well. I love him in my Animar deck. I love him in this deck. He can usually basically get you into anything that you need. Plus the fact that it gives all your creatures haste is super important. Like, that ability I think is underrated in a lot of commander circles, just because like you essentially play out your hand and then you just kill everyone. So yeah, Maelstrom Wanderer, 7/5, just great creature. Now we've got the alternative commander for the deck. So sometimes I will shift between the two. Like if Child of Alara, he's essentially the softer commander for the deck. If you really want to go hardcore, you just switch to Progenitus, and then all of a sudden things get a little bit more hairy, because then your opponents have to deal with your commander. And Progenitus is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, it's pro everything, so I mean, you can't deal with it on the board unless you board wipe. So there's that. I've been killed by this guy more times than I can even count. You know, if you think about it, if you have like a Mirari's Wake or something out, it's 2 swings and you're dead. So, and there's a lot of ways to boost this guy. Like, just give him a little +1/+1 counter, and then all of a sudden, once again, 2 swings and you're dead. Or if you give him double strike or something crazy like that. So, yeah, Progenitus. It's a crazy card. I wonder if we'll ever see him again, like Magic lore-wise. I think that would be interesting. Okay, so past that, we're moving on to our enchantments. First up, we've got a Maelstrom Nexus, of course. Oh, I almost forgot to talk about artifacts. Sorry. We don't actually have any feature artifacts on this one, so we'll backpedal a little bit. The reason is because I only have 2 in here. One of them is Elixir of Immortality. It's really just there to reshuffle your library, or your graveyard into your library, and then of course the second one is Commander Sphere. I went kind of artifact light just because once you get into like a 5-color deck, it's really hard to actually include everything that you want to. So I found that with the amount of ramp that I had naturally in the deck with playing mostly green, that it just wasn't necessary that way. Like, I didn't need the mana rocks. And then on the secondary, there wasn't enough really to get me into things like Paradox Engine or anything like that, which, you know, there's an argument to be made to throw those things in here, but really it just wasn't worth it to me. So anyway, those are the artifacts. Pretty simple, straightforward. So on from that, we will move on to our enchantments. First up, we've got a Maelstrom Nexus. This card is absolutely bonkers. So it costs 1 of each color, so 5. It's an enchantment. It says the first spell you play each turn has Cascade. So that's really, really cool with basically anything. Like I've cascaded into so many like busted spells with this. Just once again, going back to that Maelstrom Wanderer or the Progenitus thing. You cast Progenitus and then you cascade into whatever your entire deck essentially. So really important enchantment for this deck. And then we've got Mirari's Wake. Getting into like the Progenitus side of things, having the ability to cast them is obviously important. So Mirari's Wake essentially lets you do that. Just have one of each color and then all of a sudden it's doubled. Now you can just cast Progenitus, or it makes it a lot easier to cast basically anything in the deck. There's also the +1/+1 thing, which is also pretty relevant. So Mirari's Wake, it's something that anytime you see it on the board, you should try and get rid of it as long as it's not yours. So there's that. Okay, so on from enchantments, we move on to our instance here. We've got an Eldmari's Call. Once again, going to the theme of the deck, we've got Maelstrom Wanderers and stuff like that. Those are the creatures that you want to find with this. You basically just tutor them up and then you have them to be able to cascade. I know I've said cascade a million times, but really the theme is cascade, cascade, cascade. I found out Deadeye Navigator with this card a million times too, because then you can just essentially win the game. And then we're going to go into two modal spells. They're both pretty important. First up is Bant Charm. This is kind of our backup counter protection, just because, you know, a lot of times people will be trying to counter your spells, of course. And with Bant Charm, I mean, it's modal, so it's choose one, destroy target artifact, or put target creature on the bottom of its owner's library, or counter target instant spell. So, I mean, three pretty relevant modes. I know a while ago, before the tuck rule changed, like this card was a menace because you could just tuck somebody's commander and what are they going to do about it? So I'm kind of happy that's been fixed because it was pretty bad to, you know, have your commander have that happen to your commander. But think about it, there's still a ton of relevant creatures that this can happen to. If somebody has a Seedborn Muse, like what better way to deal with it than just get rid of it for probably the rest of the game? Because a lot of times, you know, when you remove something, unless it's exiled, if it goes to the graveyard, people will have a way to get it back. So this is just a fun card that, you know, deals with that. Plus, of course, it deals with Cyclonic Rift, which is the main reason that I have it in here. Just countering a Cyclonic Rift is probably the best feeling in the world when somebody's trying to hose you. So on from that, we've got a Naya Charm. Once again, choose one. Naya Charm deals 3 damage to target creature, or I thought it said player, but it's just creature. Or return target card in your graveyard to its owner's hand. That's an ability that's really relevant. Or tap all creatures target player controls. And that's what's super relevant here. Because you can just finish somebody off. You know, you just have enough power on the board to just kill somebody. There you go. Naya Charm does it all. Okay, so there are those. And then I believe we're moving into our sorceries now. First up is a Farseek. It's, you know, just the one of the ram spells that I wanted to talk about. It will go and find basically any dual land that you want. I mean, if you read it, search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain card. Obviously, the only thing you can't find is a forest, but you just find like a overgrown tomb, and then you've got your forest. So you've got your black and green. So this is a fixer and a ramper. Really cool card. Love it. I pretty much include it in any deck that has more than 3 colors in it. Of course, there's more than this, and I do want to state that. I didn't want to feature each ramp card because there's a million of them. Super important, once again, in a 5-color deck to get your colors right, to get your mana going, because a lot of your spells are really expensive, so ramp is a key factor here. So on from that, we've got an All Sun's Dawn. I'll read this one for you as well. For each color, return up to one target card of that color from your graveyard to your hand. Then remove all Sun's Dawn from the game. So this is essentially a hand reset. There are so many multicolored cards in this deck. I mean, if you think about it, you can grab Siege Rhino for white, you can grab Maelstrom Wanderer for red, so on and so forth. So this card becomes super relevant as far as late game. It's a great way to reset. I would put it up there in the same realm as like Seasons Past, even though it's not quite as good, but it does cost 1 less, and it's a lot easier to cast because, I mean, 4 colors, 1 green. Really cool. I recommend it for any, probably 4-color, 5-color deck. It, you know, obviously it scales with the amount of colors that you're playing. So there is that. And then we've got a Urban Evolution. This is not only for the ramp, but it is for the card draw. Being able to draw 3 cards and then play an additional land, that's ridiculously amazing. I wish this card was only green. That way I could play it in a lot more decks. So there's that. Me being greedy again, of course. And then we've got a Verdant Confluence. This kind of goes back to the whole modal thing again. It is a ramp when you need it, and then it also, grabs you cards from your graveyard back to your hand. So 3 super relevant abilities. I've done all 3 modes at one point. I've done only 1 mode at one point. I mean, it just depends on what you need at the time, and that's why modal spells are so important, just because you can do so much with them. And then we've got a Confluence. Talk about super expensive spells. This is a, this is an 8-cost sorcery. It says, search your library for a white card, a blue card, a black card, a red card, and a green card. So, and then reveal those cards and put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. So going back to the, what was that card called? All Sun's Dawn. This is kind of the alternate version of that where you're grabbing from your library. So once again, your Siege Rhino for white, your Maelstrom Wanderer for red. Like, there are so many cards, and it's so versatile. You can essentially just grab what you need to win off this card. And going back to things like Mirari's Wake or anything like that, it's super easy to cast a spell. Or imagine, once again, that whole scenario where you cast a Progenitus and then cascade into this. Like, just imagine that. That's like value on top of value. So there is that. So with that, I did want to talk about the mana base a little bit. So 5-color mana bases are tricky. There's a lot of ways that you can do them, really efficiently, but they're extremely expensive, like original dual lands, stuff like that. Obviously, I mean, I own 1, so that gives you an idea, and I don't know how many commander decks. They are I guess, almost a guilty pleasure, really, because, I mean, it's nice to have them, but for most people, they're just out of grasp. So with that in mind, I just, once again, wanted to focus on like what, I guess, more of a budget version would be. And it's not super budget, but it's kind of in the middle. So, of course, we've got our command towers, we've got our exotic orchards, stuff like that. But the thing is you have those tapped wedge and shard lands. I think these are super important. I run 5 of them in here. Usually in a deck like this, you don't want that many tap lands, but I think it is appropriate here just to fix your colors. And we've got a Sandstep Citadel, a Savage Lands, a Frontier Bivouac, a Jungle Shrine, and a Seaside Citadel. What I kind of wanted you guys to notice on this is each one of them have green in their, essentially, pool. Going back to how the deck was built, it is based around green. Once you have green, you can essentially find all your other colors, and that's what I want to hit home here, because that's the most important, I guess, factor here. So having the 5, I think is okay. In play, it works out just, no problem at all. I think they are my only tap lands in here anyway, so yeah, it's an appropriate number. On from that, we've got a few fetch lands. We've got like a Woodland Foothills, a Bloodstained Mire, a Windswept Heath, and I believe there were more at one point, but I had to take them out for other decks. These are super important because we will get into the shock lands now, and basically the cycle that I'm running is Overgrown Tomb, Blood Crypt, Temple Garden, Hollowed Fountain, Steam Vents, Watery Grave, Stomping Grounds, Breeding Pool. So I mean that's a lot of shock lands. That's 8 shock lands. That's almost all of them. So obviously I omitted like the black-white one. I don't need a Godless Shrine because once again that green factor. But there are a few in here like the black-red one, just because red is super relevant and black is kind of like a 4th importance. It's kind of funny how it all stacks up when you build these decks, but. Anyway, so I don't end up talking about this for 30 minutes in mana bases. Building your 5-color mana base is super important. It can be tricky. I think the main thing is just to play around with it. Like, playtesting is where you'll find the most useful information. Like, I can sit here and talk to Ton Blue in my face about what works for me, but it won't always work for everybody. So anyway, that is the deck tech. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we are looking to wrap up this series. I believe we have one more deck to go through, so I'm super excited about that. So we'll move on to other projects here soon, and I hope you guys look forward to that. Thanks again.